What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA. And this situation just keeps getting weirder and weirder every single time we come back to it, right? The whole Henry Cavill, James Gunn soap opera about Superman. It's just going to keep going on and on and on until James Gunn just says, you know what? Let me just step on off of Twitter and just write some scripts, okay? Let me stop tweeting. Let me stop going on IG and talking and running my gums, okay? Because it seems like every time I do, I open my mouth just a little bit too much and the fans jump all over me. Now, with this particular situation, it's crazy because, I personally am just as mad as everybody else, okay, when it comes to Henry Cavill not being able to play Superman. I even admit at the very beginning, I was so hot, man. I was like, this guy, James Gunn, fire him, man. I'm sick and tired. Fire this guy. Because I wanted Henry Cavill back that bad, okay? All right, that's what I wanted. But as emotions resolve themselves and you just kind of be, all right, look, I'm as angry as anybody that this isn't happening. But are we talking about some kind of a Montreal screw job? Okay, because that's what fans are basically saying at this point, right? This is like a Montreal screw job to Henry Cavill, him playing the part of Bret Hart. I don't think that's what we're dealing with here at all, okay? I think basically James Gunn got put between a rock and a hard place, probably because of Warner Brothers, Zaslav and everything, and the deals that he made with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to get Henry Cavill to come back in Black Adam in the first place, on top of the fact that he was going to get the job, okay? And I'm sure he was in the room and his opinion was considered, but he was going to get the job to be the DC studio chief, but probably well before Henry Cavill even came in and shot that scene, okay? But I think here's what happened. I'm going to get into my personal interpretation of what I think about this situation, but let's just kind of go ahead and just read through the information that they've given us. This is, of course, on TMZ. I was working on Superman before Cavill was back. It says here, James Gunn just dropped another truth bomb about how the Superman fiasco came about, and it sounds like Henry Cavill was kind of being used as a pawn, or so it seems. Here's the deal. The new co-chief of DC Studios responded to fans Sunday who inquired about an IG story he threw up over the weekend, which touched on when exactly he'd been hired to start working on new DCU flicks, including a big priority, Superman Legacy. All right, so here's the little screenshot. You can go check them out. But essentially what it's saying is that this guy had asked, hey, what's up with Creature Commandos? Is this being fast-tracked? And he says, not that fast-tracked, really, since this and Superman Legacy were both in development before we took over as DC Studios chiefs, okay? So he was already working on Superman Legacy well before he took over, okay? And he says, well, when did that take place? And he answers here, because this guy asked a question. I think there was some confusion being, you said Superman Legacy was there before you and Peter came in. He says, it was. I was hired to write Superman Legacy over 6 months ago. And if we go by our current day calendars, okay, 6 months ago was August. So you could say over 6 months ago, maybe it was July or something like that, who knows. But he says basically sometime in the summer of 2022 is when he was officially hired to write this Superman Legacy. Now, here's my interpretation of these events. Basically, James Gunn is confirming here that Henry Cavill was never going to be in Superman Legacy, the film he was writing, okay? He was never going to be in that film. He was hired to write a Superman film, and in my opinion, this is what I think. They had already, hired him, okay? I think he had already been hired. Deal was done. They were just probably working out the money stuff and everything before they officially announced it to the whole wide world, okay? James Gunn was already working on the stuff that he was going to bring into the DCU, okay? That's what he was doing. At the same time, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Black Adam was set to come out in November, all right? And Dwayne Johnson had been on David Zaslav's and everybody at Warner Brothers Studios head, okay? He was on their head. Hey, I need to get Henry Cavill in here. We're going to have a Black Adam versus Superman showdown at some point in time. Introduce him in a post-credit scene to my movie. That's what I think he wanted to see happen. And he kept pushing. Remember, I did all kind of stories talking about that. I did probably 2 or 3 videos on that during that time. I'll link one of them above if I can locate it. But The Rock finally won out, basically, is what happened, okay? The Rock finally won out. They said, all right, fine. Put him in your movie. We'll see what happens, okay? And at that point, I think this is where this thing was, okay? I think they were saying, look, if this Black Adam movie takes off The Rock thinks it's going to take off, okay? If it takes off, if it's this big splash, all right, And on top of that, you know, we got Henry Cavill in here, and now we could set up some sort of a Black Adam versus Superman movie. If we can get that thing, if this thing takes off, like if this thing did $1 billion, all right? If it did $1 billion, I think we would still have Henry Cavill in the DC universe. I think he would be probably separate, completely separate from what James Gunn is doing, because they probably also had it in their minds. We got this Elseworld stuff. All right. And if it's going to make that kind of bank, if it's going to make that kind of bread, all right, you know what, Dwayne Johnson, Elseworlds it, do what you want to do. Okay. You can sit down, you can Elseworlds it, and that's where you're at. All right. You're going to be over there. James Gunn is building the DC cinematic universe. That's basically what I think they were thinking of. All right. We're going to build this DC universe, a cinematic universe over here. You can play around with your Black Adam, and all of that kind of stuff will just be separate side projects under the Elseworlds banner. That's what was in their head. But then when Black Adam didn't really make any money, they say, all right, we'll pull the plug on the whole thing. And we don't need Henry Cavill anymore, obviously, because why? You know, I don't think that they think that Henry Cavill is going to be that big of a deal. I know he would be a big deal. You know he would be a big deal. But I don't think they believe that. And because the box office returns, everything's just not been where they are looking at. These are businessmen that are looking at the bottom line. Okay. So again, that's just my theory on the whole situation. I could be right or wrong, but nevertheless, I don't think it's like what everybody's making it out to be, that James Gunn just wanted to stab Henry Cavill in the back because he just doesn't like the guy or whatever the case may be. I think it's really something as simple as, hey, look, if this thing makes money, we good. But you know, he had already had in his head what he wanted Superman to be. I think he already knew he was going to be the head of DC Studios. I think he was probably in the room when they were saying, hey, should we allow Henry Cavill to come back in here and play Superman? You know, there's going to be a lot of fan backlash if this thing doesn't go forward. I think he was probably in the room. He probably said, don't do it. I'm just, you being honest. He probably said, no, don't do it. Because in my opinion, James Gunn does not want to compete with another Superman. He wants to make the definitive Superman for movies, okay? Period. He wants to make the definitive Superman. He does not want anybody else around it, including Henry Cavill. As much as people see Henry Cavill as the definitive Superman, his Superman wouldn't stand a chance. And as you can see, this was the entire post, you know, that Henry Cavill has said, a very small taste of what's yet to come, my friends. The dawn of hope renewed. Thank you for your patience. It will be rewarded. Hashtag Superman. This guy was coming back. They told him to announce it. According to him, he was told by the WBD to announce he was officially returning to the role, even though it now seems clear Warner had no real intentions of pursuing that. I don't think so. I think that they wanted to wait and see what happened with Black Adam. And, you know, they were going to hire Gunn in San Fran anyway, okay? These two guys was getting the job already, all right? I think that that deal had been in the works for a long time. And then they had the decision basically to give Henry Cavill the boot. I think it was just put between a rock and a hard place. Like, okay, do I allow this Henry Cavill to come in and just kind of short circuit the Superman film that I'm writing? I'm the boss. Should I allow that to happen? You know, could it be that he could incorporate Henry Cavill into what he was doing? All right. I think there's a possibility that he could do that, but he probably is in the back of his head thinking, okay, I didn't write Henry Cavill for this. I have in mind who I want to play Superman. I think the guy already knows. Okay. So basically all he's going to do is like, yeah, I had that in mind. That's what I've been writing. Okay. I've been writing with this particular actor in mind. There's no way in the world I'm just going to be able to kind of shoehorn Henry Cavill into what I'm doing. Now, if he had been writing it with Henry Cavill in mind, or just kind of any generic actor who can play the role in mind, I think we know that he probably could have said, you know what, yeah, let's go ahead and use Henry Cavill. We'll figure it out. All right. But that's just my opinion. Okay. I could be wrong, of course, but I don't think it's the screw job everybody thinks it is. Okay. I honestly think, and again, this is not me sticking up for any side. I just think that that's what happened, you know, that the guy just had to make a decision and he was like, well, shit, I've been writing this. I'm just going to stick with what I'm doing. Okay. And I think I got the vision. I feel bad for Henry. Remember, he'd been saying that Henry Cavill had been screwed over by all of these guys. So I'm pretty sure he didn't want to be just another guy screwing him over. Okay. And I do believe that it is screwed up that Henry Cavill was told to announce his return, right? And then have the rug pulled out from underneath them. I think that that's just wrong, okay? But that kind of stuff happens in business. Henry Cavill's a grown-up, so I'm sure he's going to be just fine making Warhammer, okay? He's off to doing what he wants to do anyway. So I think that that's the case, you know, just my opinion, of course. In other words, Cavill appears to have been jerked around. He honestly was. I just don't think, again, it's like a a full-fledged, like I wanted to stab this guy in the back screw job kind of jerked around, okay? I think just unfortunately, that's the way the circumstances played out. If The Rock had never really asked him to come back, none of this crap would have happened. If Black Adam made the money that The Rock expected it to make, all of this never would have happened. I think The Rock had the right idea, but I think, unfortunately, he hired the wrong writers, and he should have did something completely utterly different with Black Adam than what he did, even though I enjoyed the movie. I think it's pretty all right. As for who's to blame, well, hard to say. There's been so many changes at WB over the past 2 years with execs coming and going. It's not really clear if Cavill was totally misled and by whom. Alternatively, there might just have been a miscommunication that led to the confusion cycle. That's what I think, okay? I think this all comes down to kind of miscommunication on one hand, but also just kind of the ambitions of The Rock. And, don't blame The Rock for that either. I'm not mad at The Rock. He was trying to give the fans what they wanted. I personally would have been happy with a Black Adam Superman film as well, with Henry Cavill playing Superman. I would have been cool with that. I would have been cool with it existing in Elseworlds, not connected to anything else. I would have been happy with a Man of Steel 2, a Man of Steel 3, just so Henry Cavill can finish out his trilogy, and I would have been good with any of that, okay? I just wanted to see Henry Cavill come back and finish what he started, and unfortunately, we're not going to get that. But anyway, folks, what do you think about this situation? Man, it's just like frustrating all over again, because you start hearing this information and you're sitting here like, man, like, can these guys get their act together? Okay. There's hope with James Gunn. He's not a bad filmmaker, okay? I want people to understand that. But at the same time, this guy got to stay off of Twitter. He got to stay off of, Instagram. He just got to focus on making the DCU the best it can be. That's all we care about, all right? All of the behind the scenes stuff, even though I do like it and appreciate it, all right? It just seems to cause more trouble, in the fandom, just going to start splintering off and getting messed up. I want the DC. You see what my hat is, man. I'm a DC guy, all right? I just want DC to be good again, It should be up there, actually better than Marvel. It should be better than Marvel, all right? So I want to see somebody who can pull that off. The Snyderverse had its hiccups, okay? But I think the one thing they did get right was Henry Cavill, and it's just a shame that we're not going to be there. But go ahead, folks, give me your comments in the thoughts below, and thanks for watching. See you next time.